So there has been some talk that there is violence and riots and protests going on in France with the Yellow Vest movement. And I say here, Arana Nation stands with and supports and stands in solidarity with the Yellow Vest in everything that they do. And we want the Yellow Vest to come to Canada. And if needs be, we want someone to organize a similar protest with riots all over the place, because this is the only way that these governments are going to listen to us. So here's what's happening. In France, you have Emmanuel Macron, the president, who is trying to put extra taxes on gasoline and fuel and petrol and all that sort of stuff. And the French people are saying, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. So they're going on the streets, they're blocking the roads, and if needs be, they'll riot too. And I support it every single bit. And don't tell me, oh, we can be non-violent. We have to be law and order. No. This isn't some Bandalulu thing here. This is revolution here now. And I support it. I was seeing, what's his name, on RT, Russia Today, Salzburg, or some conservative out there saying, non-violent, the poor, we can't be violent. Let me tell you something here. This is serious business here now. We're not joking around like these Anglo-Saxon Protestant people do here, where they just have a little tiny protest. They'll stand in the cold, they'll make a few speeches and go home and nothing gets done. This is real business here, and I support Yellow Vests. I'm sick and tired of the governments of the world bringing in carbon taxes on the little guy in this effort to stop climate change or carbon or global warming or whatever they call it. I'm not necessarily saying that there is no global warming. But we're not going to solve the problem by taxing people to death. We're not going to solve the problem that way. The governments of the world need to realize that we're not going to take this foolishness any longer. There are many, many issues on the table that far surpass climate change or global warming. This climate change, global warming thing is something that these guys have made to get more money. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't anything wrong with our planet, but we need efforts to get businesses, big businesses, global businesses to plant more trees. They've got the money to do it. We need to start going after them. What Emmanuel Macron did in France was get rid of the wealth tax. So the rich people get to keep all their money. The globalist companies and corporations of Europe are not being forced to plant trees. They don't have to pay anything. And when they think that France is expensive, they'll go and take their money to some offshore bank or something like that. And the little guy in France is the one that has to struggle to find money, to find the extra pennies to fill up his gas tank. So I'm saying that the Yellow Vests need to do whatever needs necessary, even if it means taking over the government by force, even if it means that. And if needs be, I would endorse fresh riots, because this is the only way the governments will listen. And it's the one thing with the French that you have to admire. You can say that the French, they surrender, they do all sorts of stuff. I'm in Canada here. I know about French things. The one group of people in Canada that are constantly trying to stand up for some sort of Canadian culture is not the English Canadian. The English Canadian is as lazy as a dog, sits on his ass, does nothing, lets the government roll all over him. It's the French ones who are always up and down, rioting, protesting, causing independence and wanting independence, all this sort of stuff, referendum on this and that and blah, blah, blah. They are the ones that get most of the attention by the government of Canada, because they're the ones who are the loudest. The ones in Ontario, Alberta, New Brunswick, all these people, they don't do anything. When the government says this is how it's going to be, the English Canadian says, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, that's it. Just like in France. Look at France. the government of Emmanuel Macron has just backtracked on this fuel tax hike. They're saying we're not going to do this because we don't want to see any more of our roads being blocked and our streets being torn up and burnt down and all this stuff. We don't want to see that. So we're going to back down. We're not going to tax the little guy to death. We're not going to do this anymore. And that's how it seems to be getting attention. And by the way, Arana Nation is calling on Emmanuel Macron to resign. I don't care what he does. He has let the situation go to a point where there are riots and people are being disrupted, and their way of living in France has been disrupted to a point where it is unacceptable. He has allowed it to get to that point. He's going to cause Pandora's box, where there's going to be even more riots, because that's how they feel that people will listen to them. He needs to resign with his arrogant self. And I'm calling for the Yellow Vest. I'm praying for their success. I pray for the success of the Yellow Vest. And I hope that every country in the world has a Yellow Vest movement. Every country in the world has a Yellow Vest movement, which will stand up. And I'm not talking about movement for global warming. I'm talking about movement for the little guy. The populist nationalist movement, which will be against carbon taxes, which will be against government abuses, which will put government on its toes. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm praying for. And I stand with the Yellow Vest movement. And I will never, never try to undermine the Yellow Vest movement here on this channel. I'm not doing it. Because what they're doing is what needs to be done. It's the way, that's how France was formed. French Revolution. Sometimes you need violence. American Revolution. So you hear all these people, these waspy people, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It's the same thing with the African movement. When Africans were being colonialized and they're like, we can't have violence. No violence. Oh, you have to be good. You have to be good. Oh, no. We do what we need to do. We start out peaceful. We start out decent. We will. But if the government will just take us for a joke or for some kind of bandalulu thing, like this is all some kind of fun house, then we have to get tougher. So I will not undermine Yellow Vests. I want them to do whatever they need to do to keep the government respectful. This is the Arana Nation.